Why don't we get into this New York Knicks debacle? And I call it a debacle because the Knicks organization can sit here today and say, we have over 22 draft picks in the next 7 years, 11 first rounders, and 11 second rounders. Every Knicks fan should be happy. We talk about what the Knicks did around playoff time with Allen Houston, Julius Randle, and Worldwide Wes going to a Dallas Mavericks game against Utah, checking out Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. I understand Jalen Brunson isn't a superstar player, or maybe he's not something that really appeals to other Knicks fans. The Knicks hired Brunson's father to work under Leon Rose and Worldwide West to help out scouting players. I sit here today and I wonder, what are the New York Knicks trying to do? You have a player in RJ Barrett. He is a good player. And I really believe that RJ Barrett has a great future with or without Tom Thibodeau. I look at Obi Toppin. He showed a lot of growth at the end of the season. Emmanuel Quigley, another guy that showed a lot of growth, even though he's undersized at the guard position. The Knicks have like 3 or 4 undersized point guards on this team. And they added another one in the second round in Keel. We look at this team as a whole, and I understand they're trying to get rid of contracts. I love Kemba Walker. There was no reason why you bring Kemba Walker in if you knew he wasn't 100%. And the Knicks knew he wasn't 100%. So what did they do at number 11? They draft this kid Dang. Knicks fans boo him. But Knicks fans usually boo. Kristaps Porzingis was one of them. RJ Barrett really didn't make them excited either at number 3 because they wanted Williamson, who went number 1. And you're wondering what this organization is doing. As a fan of the New York Knicks, am I happy? I'm not excited. There was a few players the Knicks could have gone after. They could have went after Williams from Duke. He's a good player. Could be a building block to play with RJ. Both of them played for Coach K. Williams played under Coach K for his last career season. I look at this team, and I'm just wondering, what is this organization doing? Are they trying to build a winner? And I don't want to hear we have 11 first-round draft picks in the next 7 years, because a lot of them are protected first-round picks, which means at least 4 of them could turn out to be second-round picks. And second-round picks don't do anything for anybody. You cannot sell the New York Knicks fan, well, we got 7 years of top-end draft stock, and we can make trades, and we can make moves to make this team better. Because they haven't done that in the last 40 years. The 90s were a great time because they had Patrick Ewing and John Starks and Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley. Don't get me into Charles Smith because I couldn't stand Charles Smith, and we all know what he did in the playoffs, especially in the finals. This organization has been nothing but a joke, not only to NBA players, but all around the league. They can't buy a number 1 pick, no matter how bad they are. How many times do we see Cleveland win the draft after LeBron James left?
Including drafting Anthony Bennett.
How many times did we see the Timberwolves win the draft after Garnett left? But the New York Knicks, ever since Patrick Ewing was traded to the Supersonics, has never had any luck in the NBA draft. So you sit here today and you wonder, is Jalen Brunson enough in the offseason that would make New York Knicks fans happy? And the answer is no.
Here's the dilemma that the Knicks are going to have right now. Jalen Brunson is a good young point guard. 16.3 points a game, 4.8 assists, 3.9 rebounds. Shoots very well free throw wise, efficient from the field. Now, Luka Doncic gives some attention away from Jalen Brunson, so how many open looks you have with the Knicks, we'll see. But he is a guy that spaces the floor well. But the dilemma is the money, because Jalen Brunson has really only peaked the last 2 seasons. And in a shortened season, showed something in 2020, 2021, potential-wise. So maybe the Knicks are getting him on the upside, but he's going to want a max contract. Are the Knicks going to be willing to give it to him? Is Dallas going to be willing to give it to him, which will force somebody else to match it? Otherwise, Dallas will be able to get him back. So the Knicks have set themselves up, maybe has potential for that, clearing $9.2 million of cap space, and also forcing the Thunder to pay a portion of the remainder of Kemba's contract as well, who initially buy him out. Now, the Knicks traded the 11th pick to OKC. They got 3 first-round picks. Like you were saying, 2 of them are protected. The Nuggets pick and the Wizards pick are both lottery protected, and they also traded one of those picks in order to get the 13th pick, which they then ended up trading in order to get a first-round pick from the Pistons, from the Milwaukee Bucks. The Pistons eat the contract for Kemba. So in all, they had to trade a bunch of second-round picks. They also got some back in exchange from the Thunder as well. And 11 first-round picks, 11 second-round picks, Leon Rose was saying, in the next 7 years. While it's not what OKC has, it's certainly something, assuming that these conditional picks work out. The Knicks are just playing for the future. I guess there wasn't a player they didn't really love. There were certainly some players I would have drafted there. I know they wanted Johnny Davis, who went a pick before that to the Wizards. I think Ochai Agbaji, who the Cavs drafted, would have been a nice fit for the Knicks too. A guy that's experienced, a guy that played 4 years at Kansas, good point guard, guard, good shooter for a national championship team. Also, A.J. Griffin was another guy they were looking at and decided to pass up on, who went to the Hawks. But beyond that, they're trying to just stockpile at this point, and hopefully they do end up making that kind of trade for a top-end player, because they can't get one in free agency, because James Dolan drives a lot of these players away, and they don't want to come to the Knicks. So they got to find another avenue. Maybe this will work, but it is a big gamble trying to go on this strategy based on these conditional picks. So a lot to unknowns, not necessarily bad, we don't know yet, but just a lot of unknowns right now with the state that the Knicks could have been in from where they were last year.
The only positive thing that could happen is if somehow they land Donovan Mitchell. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
Right.
Because they're going to have to do something with Julius Randle's contract. And I don't know if anybody wants Julius Randle, especially the season that he had last year. Now, if he had a good season last year, then the Knicks could move a very good contract. Julius Randle only makes $116 million for the 4 or 5 year deal extension that they gave him. So I just don't know where this team is. As a New York Knicks fan, I'm definitely not excited. They had a chance to go after Durant from Memphis, a big man. If they can't decide what they're going to do with Robinson, at least they have a big man that could play if Robinson is gone in free agency. Now, if it's Nerlens Noel hasn't played in a full year. So that is a scary situation, because this New York Knicks team, which preys on defense, because Tom Thibodeau preaches that 110% over offense, that is scary when you don't have a distinct defensive player in the middle of the court. So if I was a New York Knicks fan right now, I wouldn't be excited. Leon Rose posted something. Why don't you get into what he said after the draft?
Last night, we made 3 trades involving draft picks, which resulted in increased financial flexibility and additional draft capital moving forward. We now have a total of 22 picks, 11 in the first round and 11 in the second round over the next 7 years. We have the ability to be active in free agency as well as in the trade market. Our focus will remain to be strategic and thoughtful in our team building, doing it the right way while feeding off the momentum from the end of last season and prioritizing our player development program. Thank you to Knicks fans for your continued support.
That's all we're going to hear from Leon Rose for the next year, because this man hides wherever he hides, in his office, under his desk. Who knows? He lets Worldwide Wes appear in the public eye. And that, to me, is just absolutely appalling. When the New York Knicks fan has always been dedicated to their team. They're probably the most dedicated fan out of all the New York teams. The fans just absolutely love their team. To sit back and realize, even though the Brooklyn Nets are in their own little world,
they're in an abyss.
At least they got 2 players that are still on the team that can help them win.
For now.
Who does the Knicks have? R.J. Barrett is an up-and-coming winner. Maybe an up-and-coming superstar. But we don't know. We still don't know what R.J. Barrett is. And don't tell me Julius Randle, because he's not a star. So we're sitting here praying that R.J. Barrett becomes Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, a better James Harden.
Hopefully he's much more efficient than James Harden.
If he becomes anywhere like that, then we could talk. And right now, he's quoted to be the shooting guard next year, the starting 2 guard for the New York Knicks. He needs to work on his shot. He still has problems at the 3-point line. The New York Knicks don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. I don't care what Spike Lee says. I don't care what Stephen A. Smith says. He doesn't want to go to another game at Madison Square. I don't care. Maybe Stephen A. Smith and Spike are both jinxes to the New York Knicks. And if they don't show up, maybe the Knicks will start winning.
Maybe Spike will try to get his own entrance back.
Who knows? Maybe they should invite Charles Oakley back. Right now, this team has no luck. They've made all the wrong moves, trying to trade up for Jaden Ivey, which it was never going to happen. There was no way in hell the Detroit Pistons were going to trade with the Knicks so the Knicks get a possible future star in the NBA. Nobody's going to help the Knicks. Nobody wants to help the Knicks. The only way the Knicks are going to get help is if Bronny gets drafted by the Knicks. And then guess what? LeBron decides to go and play with his son. That's about it. That is the luck the Knicks are going to have to fall into. If Bronny isn't a great player, the Knicks say, you know what? We'll draft him at 10 or 11 or 12, even though he's not as good as where we're drafting him, because we know that we're going to draw LeBron to come and play with him.
I'm sure the league would love that too, actually.
That would be the only way the New York Knicks are going to be any good as of right now on a piece of paper. And I don't want to hear Kyrie Irving. We'll get into Kyrie Irving in just a little while. But right now, if you are a New York Knicks fan, you can't be pleased on what Leon Rose had to say. You can't be pleased what they did at the draft. The only thing that could win this offseason is not Jalen Brunson. Is Donovan Mitchell. That will win the offseason and all the skeptics in all of New York. Because right now, even though the Brooklyn Nets look like a worse mess than the New York Knicks, they're tailing just a little bit behind them. And this is not a good sign. I don't care how many draft picks you have. It doesn't mean they're going to turn out to be anything. The New York Knicks have been proven not to draft right. And they don't get first or second or third picks in the first round. They get one of those guys every 15 years. I don't think the Knicks are ever going to win in any of the top 3. They got lucky. They got R.J. Barrett. He looks like he's a player. He's not John Morant.
Nope.
And he's not Williamson. Is he going to be as good as those guys? Only time will tell. Coaching and players that you're going to put around him to succeed. Until that happens, I don't know what R.J. Barrett's going to be, and I don't know what this team is going to be in any type of future when we move forward with this basketball team.